In 1996, it was the advent of portable computing. I saw the opportunity to put those together with cardiac event recorders. Fast forward to 2007, Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone. I saw that and I went, this is the platform that finally makes that idea from 96 practical. And suddenly about 2 or 3 in the morning, I get a phone call. Mate, what did you do? We have 200,000 views of that video.
Dr. David Alpert is the visionary physician and inventor behind the AliveCor, whose personal ECG technology has been used over 335 million times. On this episode of Rounds, he shares the incredible journey of creating the world's first smartphone ECG. From a concept born in the 90s to a viral video that launched a revolution in personal health monitoring.
They said, well, we don't think a Medicare person is going to spend $100 to buy a device. And we don't think any doctor is going to interpret that ECG without having a CPT code and getting reimbursed. In 2018, when Apple introduced ECG on their watch, I thought it was going to be the death of my company. And my chairman said, best thing ever happened to you, prediction. AI is going to enable prediction. And in medicine, prediction equals prevention. I'm not going to keep any of us from dying. I just want to keep you from dying before your time.
What was the hurdle that got you from a demo device of this to where you are today?
You need to be your harshest critic. The strongest steel is forged in the hottest fire. So you need to have your friends, your family critique you, challenge you, until that idea is as hardened steel.
Welcome to this episode of Rounds. Today we have joining us Dr. David Alpert. Dr. Alpert, welcome to the episode.
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you for the invitation.
For those viewers who are not familiar with AliveCor, and I don't want to go too far into AliveCor, I want to more know about your innovation, how AliveCor came about, and some of the innovative concepts and motivation you could give to the folks watching this. So, could you share with us a bit about AliveCor?
The genesis for AliveCor actually started in my last company, which is a company called Data Critical, which was sold to GE Healthcare in 2001. But in 1996, it was the advent, really the beginning of portable computing, wireless data. Okay, so we had cell phone networks. They were still analog at the time, hadn't become digital. We had Palm Pilots and Palm Top computers. And so I saw the opportunity to put those together with cardiac event recorders. And so we made a prototype that would record, transmit, display a single lead ECG. It was a Rube Goldberg thing, but we got a 510K and we got a patent. It just was not a practical solution. So we never really commercialized it. Fast forward to 2007, Steve Jobs did his now famous one more thing and introduced the iPhone. I saw that and I went, this is the platform that finally makes that idea from 96 practical. So I contacted a good friend of mine who happens to have been an ECG expert engineer down in Australia. And he said, mate, can't do it. They've locked it all up at Apple. There's no way to do this. There's no way to develop on it. So we had to wait another 18 months before Apple introduced the App Store and an ability to develop apps for the iPhone. He said, still can't do it because they've locked up the Bluetooth. You have to buy chips from them to authenticate. And I said, well, I have another idea. And so we began working on that other idea and for about 9 months until we came up with, in essence, the first smartphone ECG device. And went to Hong Kong. I spent some of my money invested into this and had prototypes built by a manufacturer I knew in Hong Kong. And on December 14th of 2010, happens to be my birthday, I received a box from Hong Kong with 15 prototype cases. And these were designed for the iPhone 4. That's what you had in 2010. So I thought those were pretty cool. And I was going to go to the Consumer Electronics Show and show them to a bunch of people who I thought might find it of interest. And so on December 30th, I went to my little office in Oklahoma City and I made an unscripted 4-minute video. I was trained by my 9-year-old son, who's today 26, on how to make a YouTube video because he modified Nerf guns. And that's a whole community at the time of modifying Nerf guns and making videos and putting CO2 cartridges and letting a Nerf gun shoot a quarter of a mile, crazy stuff. So he taught me how to do that. So I went in, I made an unscripted 4-minute video, and I was going to upload it to YouTube. I started uploading, but there was a button you could click. It said, send the link to your LinkedIn connections. And I had about 300-400 LinkedIn connections, or my business connections from GE, from my previous medical device experience. I just happened to click that. I don't know why I did. Hit upload, let it upload. The next day was New Year's Eve. I had a date with my wife. I've been married 41 years, 4 kids, grandkids. And we were going out New Year's Eve, had a wonderful New Year's Eve, get home, go to bed. We'd already watched the ball drop in New York and all that stuff. And suddenly about 2 or 3 in the morning, I get a phone call. My cell phone's next to my bed, iPhone 4 with a case on it. And it's my partner in Australia. He said, mate, what did you do? And it's already it's January 1st there in Australia. I said, I don't know. He says, we have 200,000 views of that video. I said, what? And yeah, they're going up like the clock. And so that began the odyssey that ultimately ended into AliveCor. By the time I went to the Consumer Electronics Show, I had already been asked to be on Good Morning America, Fox and Friends. I had to get up at 3 in the morning because they wanted me there at 4 in the morning because it was a 7 in the morning East Coast show. And I've been contacted by everybody from the fruit company in Cupertino to GE Healthcare, who had seen a prototype but thought it was a toy. And ultimately, had venture capitalists, including my current chairman, Vinod Khosla, one of the most successful venture capitalists, say this is an idea of where the future is going to be, empowering patients.
I tell you, this show is about innovators. And if you think about where technology and the medical community have crossed roads, it's really just started over the last 10 years. So you were 10 years well in advance before that, looking at integration of cell phones, ambulatory management of patients, well beyond what really is the impotence of what triggered a increase in remote patient monitoring, which was the pandemic, which really had a seismic shift in this entire process. So well before that, you were already looking at this.
Well, that's right. And the pandemic doubled our business in 1 year. As patients couldn't go to their doctor, they couldn't get their Holter monitors or their PET, they couldn't get anything. So they bought our device and could send their ECG to their doctor. And so that, I figured when the pandemic was over, our sales would drop back down, never did. It's just kept going up and to the right. So we were fortunate to, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, Joseph. We were at the right place at the right time with the right solution and benefited from what was in essence it would have been inevitable, the democratization of monitoring, whether it's continuous glucose monitors with Abbott and Dexcom, blood pressure monitors, watches, smart watches, all of those things we preceded. And they would have come along, but then they got this big boost with the pandemic, technology, opportunity, and equals growth for AliveCor.
CMS has a department called the Innovation Center, and this is where, if you want to look at where CMS is heading, it's where the medical community is heading, what they're looking to fund. It is this department that began this remote patient monitoring, and you were, as we indicated, you were well before that even was developed. For some of these young innovators or innovators who are early in their development of a product, a service, whatever it might be, what was the hurdle, or what can you share with us was the hurdle that got you from, a demo device of this to where you are today?
Well, there were several hurdles. And they were raised to me by my friends at GE Healthcare. And that is, number one, they said, we don't think anybody who needs this, and they think Medicare, heart disease manifests after the fifth decade, really. Yes, younger people can have heart attacks, can have heart problems, but really the huge majority happen later. They said, well, we don't think a Medicare person is going to spend $100 to buy a device. And we don't think any doctor is going to interpret that ECG without having a CPT code and getting reimbursed. That was their perspective in 2010. Yeah, that was wrong. It was completely wrong, but that's the world we all lived in. It was Medtronic and GE and Philips and Boston Scientific. They lived in that reimbursable. We don't market our products to patients. We market our products to doctors and hospitals. And so this seemed like an alien concept now. But what you had to see is, we all know that healthcare deductibles, healthcare premiums, insurance availability are all going in the wrong direction. And therefore, people are going to become inevitably more financially and personally responsible for their healthcare.
And you're certainly leading the path with the AliveCor. Let's fast forward to where we are today, because I think, we met each other at the HRS meeting earlier this year in San Diego, and you have a whole new suite of products that you've commercialized and introduced under the AliveCor brand, which has built an incredibly strong brand. So where are we at today with the company? What are the newest products that you have? I just wanted to jump to the present day, because I think from where you are to where we are today and the type of company you built is quite impressive. So where are we at today? Where's AliveCor?
Well, we have a product line. So instead of a one product company, we have an entire product line. So we have our KardioMobile that you can buy in a CVS or a Walmart for under $80. And we have our KardioMobile card, which is this device, which is a credit card, single lead ECG that can go in your wallet. We have our KardioMobile 6L, which gives you half the 12-lead ECG. It's a little bit more expensive, but gives you a lot more information. That's the device that most cardiologists and electrophysiologists recommend that their patients get, because it gives them a lot more information, better visibility of P waves, better ability to diagnose AFib and other arrhythmias. And then we have our brand new KardioMobile 12L, which is really a revolutionary implementation of a 12-lead ECG, developed, backed by millions of ECGs from Emory and Mayo Clinic, AI-driven, and enables, I can do a 12-lead ECG in under 2 minutes on anybody, anywhere, and have it transmitted, around the world instantaneously, and have it interpreted by state-of-the-art AI. And it fits in my pocket, and we just received clearance to sell in India and sold our first one yesterday.
Congratulations.
And so obviously, thank you, it needs to be inexpensive to be able to sell in countries like India, into all the places that need it. So all the places where people don't have access to the amazing infrastructure we have in the United States and in Europe. And so that's all that most of the world, to be honest with you. And so I think we're excited about that growth opportunity to go beyond AFib.
Now, where are we? What countries, what continents are we selling the AliveCor in?
Well, we sell in 45 countries now. So we're, I couldn't give you a comprehensive list, but imagine every continent, from Australia to Asia to South America, certainly North America, Canada, Europe, Scandinavia, and Japan. The one place we're not today is China. We're in Hong Kong. We've been in Hong Kong for 10 years, but mainland China is for a variety of reasons has not been a target market, although obviously big, huge potential market. We're in Vietnam. We're in Saudi Arabia. We're all over the world, Joseph, with our products, and we're just now beginning. We're in the U.S. with our 12L with FDA clearance. We're in Israel. We're in India now. We're not in Europe yet. That'll be at the beginning of 2026. You have to follow all these regulatory requirements around the world when you introduce a medical product. And we've got a good team, and it's enabled us to sell inexpensive products, but to build a company that's no longer a tiny startup.
Well, what's impressive is that the foundation of your company preceded the entire program that CMS, or let's say Medicare for those watching, this whole remote patient monitoring where they're, as you're saying, given the responsibility to patients to monitor their blood pressures, their A1Cs, their weight. There's 5 different biometrics, ECG is one of them, that patients can now take on a daily basis, and the data gets uploaded to their clinician who enrolls them into this program called remote patient monitoring. So I think if any company is best to take advantage of this and help out the cardiovascular community, it is AliveCor. And as you know, I'm 25 years in the industry as well, so I know that firsthand. I want to turn your attention, or the viewer's attention, to the small product you just held up, the credit card size. Can you hold that up? Okay. So a LinkedIn social media post, which went quite viral, was a cardiologist who was on a flight recently. And I want to bring this to the attention because it made a lot of headway. It went viral, I should say, where a patient was having a cardiovascular event on board a flight. And this cardiologist popped up, whipped out the AliveCor, and began to diagnose the patient based on that technology. So could you share a little? I know you had some discussions with that particular cardiologist.
Yeah, Dr. TJ Trad of Tulsa, Oklahoma, had been on a medical mission to Africa. Was on his way back when over the Atlantic, the patient had a cardiac event, and TJ pulled out his card, his cardiomobile card, and managed the patient in flight. I've had dinner with TJ since that time. It got on CNN. There was a guy happened I think he may have been a podcaster who recorded it and got it to CNN and picked it up, and it obviously went viral. That's one example. But I can tell you in 2012, I had provided one of our first prototypes to a very famous cardiologist, Dr. Eric Topol, and he diagnosed an acute MI on a flight back from the NIH, back from DC to San Diego to La Jolla, where he lives. And so that kind of capability exists. I have many anecdotes from friends who say they've used our device on a plane, at an emergency, on a cruise ship. And so I think this is just part and parcel of the fact that instead of patients having to go to the hospital to get care, we take care to the patients. And there is remote patient monitoring. CMS also has a new program called Hospital at Home, where patients who would otherwise be in a hospital, who have acute illnesses, things like pneumonia, are treated at home with oxygen and IVs, and nurses come to home. People love that. And every major health system in the U.S. is in essence pioneering or piloting that capability. And I think, the new powers that be inside of CMS and HHS, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Mehmet Oz. I know Dr. Oz. He's been a cardio user for a long time. They're going to push wearables. Talked about it. Secretary Kennedy's talked about, he thinks Americans should all have wearables. I wear a ring, track my sleep. Aura has done a good job on that. And they also see the opportunity of moving patients out of the hospital who can get care at home and who'd rather be at home, rather be in their own bed and receive the care that they get in the hospital at home. Now, obviously, to do that, you have to have vigilance that if that patient starts to decompensate or have an issue, to monitor them to know when they need to come back in the hospital. And I think the vision is pretty much that hospitals will be places for operations, procedures, and intensive care. And all the rest of the things will be done at home. And that means, again, we take care to the patient, not bring the patient to the care.
Well, you've beat me to the question I was going to ask, and where's the future of the wearables heading? And it's absolutely exploded, right? If you think about the last few years, And it's really about giving the power to the patient to manage themselves, but also have clinicians, if they want, reviewing the data as well. But you made a very interesting point here is if you think about hospital setting, the hospital setting should be designated for the treatment, right? Or for patients, early detection before an event occurs, getting to your doctor, getting to the hospital. So let me ask this, although you've already explored it, the future of wearables, let's take a giant leap forward. Where do you think that would end up?
Well, I can tell you, we had another AliveCor had another first this past week. We had our first implementation of cardia data going directly into the GE Muse ECG management system. This was at the University Hospital in Hanover, Germany. Now, fast following them are hospitals, one called the Mayo Clinic, another one called Montefiore, and another one called a number of hospitals. Why? Because that brings wearable data, personal biometric data into the workflow. And so that's what's required. If you're, remote patient monitoring, you got to get that data into the workflow. Doctors, quite frankly, don't have time. So this is where AI comes in. And that's another thing that has exploded in all aspects of our life over the last several years. Since ChatGPT came out, you can't go anywhere without hearing AI and how it's going to change our lives. Well, with this deluge, tsunami of personal wearable data, we're going to need AI to sift through it and only deliver the really important data to the humans because we got too many other things to do. So I think you're having a confluence. You have the wearables, you have AI, you have this impetus by the government to push personalization, personal responsibility on healthcare. So all that comes together to where I see hospitals in the future as being places where you have an operation. And by the way, day surgery, I had a hip replacement 2 years ago. I went in at 5:30 in the morning. I was at home by 6 o'clock in the evening. That's a hip replacement. When I graduated from Duke Medical School in 1981, that was 5 days in the hospital, discharged to a rehab facility for 2 weeks. Now, from 3 weeks of care to not even spending the night in the hospital. That's where we've moved hip replacement, a major operation. So I think you're going to see the dehospitalization and see those very expensive, very sophisticated resources only being used for the absolute, necessary conditions. And so it's a cost thing as well as, what patients want.
So let's talk about AI because we can't have a discussion about technology without AI, right? It goes hand in hand these days. And any technology these days that doesn't have some type of AI built in potentially is antiquated. So let's talk about AI in the AliveCor and what's happening there.
We've been the beneficiary of having millions of ECGs from the Mayo Clinic, with full disclosure, is an investor in AliveCor, a partner at Emory University Medical Center, the Massachusetts General Hospital, and we've recorded since the beginning of AliveCor over 335 million rhythm strips, and we have all of those in our cloud and have anonymous access. So I don't get the PHI, but I have access to that ECG data, some of which is a patient taking their ECG every day for the last 10 years. So this is a tremendous wealth of data, and to develop deep learning, deep neural networks, generative AI, you need that kind of data. So we've been very fortunate. By being early, we built this huge database. The Mayo Clinic has been really the pioneer in developing ECG AI, and we've been working with them from the beginning of that process. And so, we are deep into deep learning and into the development of AI, and we have it on our website, in our app. In our Cardia app, we have something called Ask Cardia. Well, it's a generative AI solution tailored to cardiovascular AFib type questions. And people, it's very popular. People give us great reviews for it.
Well, let's further speak about this, because I think that the audience needs to understand that. How many ECGs do you have again?
335 million. We get 1.3 million cardiac ECGs into our cloud every week.
The value of that, when you think about how AI is built, there are a number of companies that have commercialized AI, ECG AI algorithms. Most of these are built on 3, 4, even 5 million beats, right? That's all. So if the audience here is thinking about 300 plus million beats, and you think about the accuracy of AI, put that into context for a bit, and you'll see, you'll understand why and how impressive that amount of data and how that could support, the cardiologist and treatments and diagnostics for the years to come. So AI, very influential. It's part of AliveCor. We could say even AliveCor was ahead of the time with capturing this data.
Again, it's sometimes better to be lucky than good. From the beginning, we stored the data in the cloud. We had in our terms and conditions the ability to utilize the anonymized data to develop models. Why? For the benefit of the patients, the benefit of the customers. And one thing I say, Joseph, is not every consumer is a patient, but every patient's a consumer. And at AliveCor, we have, we're not, our customer base is not 30-year-olds. It's 60-year-olds. It's patients by and large. And so, we're always working for them.
So this leads us to a question I love to ask, especially for, individuals who have developed technology and have done a lot. So what is the legacy you're looking to leave, whether through your company or yourself? I think it's all one at this point. The company is part of you, your family at this point. So what is that legacy?
Yeah, it's cliche that I leave the world a little better than I found it. Okay. And I think from my perspective, I took a Hippocratic oath in 1981 in Duke Chapel. Okay. And I took it and still take it very seriously. It hangs upstairs in my bedroom. What I hope is I'm not going to keep any of us from dying. I just want to keep you from dying before your time. Okay. And unfortunately, sometimes people die before their time. And so heart disease has been the number one reason for that. And, we've got to do a better job. We've improved that, but we've got to do even a better job. And we've got to intervene earlier, which means we have to identify people earlier. And so we're inevitably going to be working, and I hope that our legacy is that we've kept people from dying before their time.
That is a beautiful legacy to leave, and you've already, I think you've already accomplished that, and more things yet to come. I'd like to shift a bit, and now focus on more of the innovators who are watching. And one of the drivers that really is a barrier for many innovators is about generating capital to get their products over the finish line. So what words of advice can you give the innovators about how to generate capital, how to go out to the VCs, or if it's crowdfunding or friends and family? Share with us some of your insights.
Well, first of all, you need to have a very clear view of your strengths and weaknesses, because you may have an idea, but I can tell you it is another cliche. There is no I in team. Today, the lone entrepreneur is a very unique and rare creature because it takes a team, whether it's developing AI or developing a medical product, whatever innovation you're trying to do. And you need to be your harshest critic. You need to understand what are all the issues? How can this be attacked? Because when you go to friends and family, they may trust you, but they want you to be confident that you've looked at all the aspects, all the risks. It's risk capital. Venture capital is risk capital. Now, if you go to, if you're fortunate enough to get opportunities to go to Sand Hill Road and to visit, the Vinod Khoslas and the Kleiner Perkins and the Andreessen Horowitzes, and I've been to all of those, by the way. I would tell you that you better have you better start it at the the class A people before you get to the big leagues. Okay, you need the class A, then the double A, then the triple A before you get there. You need to have honed your pitch, honed your ideas, had them attacked. The strongest steel is forged in the hottest fire. So you need to have your friends, your family critique you, challenge you until that idea is as hardened steel. And that to me is, it's being honest with yourself is a challenge for many people, challenge for me every day. That's what you have to do in order to be ready. I can't tell you how to innovate. I can just tell you that in order to be successful, you need to be single-minded. You need to never give up, and you need to believe that this idea of yours will succeed. And then you need to be honest. Okay, what are the problems, and how do I address them?
Great encouraging words, and no one could tell the AliveCor story better than you. You've built a fantastic company. How many employees are there at the moment?
Oh, well, we got over 150. Not exact, yeah, and we're we're a 9-figure company now. It's that, you cross that threshold, you're it's a real deal. We're not a tiny startup anymore. So, this is a company who have, we've succeeded in creating, you said it, a brand. I've had people tell me, I saw your ad on the NFL football game or on Wheel of Fortune or Fox and Friends. Yes. And that took a major investment. We've had tremendous investor support from the likes of Mayo Clinic, Qualcomm, GE Healthcare, as well as Khosla Ventures and others. So we've had they helped fund us across the chasm when personal ECG and personal monitoring was not considered something that was really of significance. Today, I don't think anybody would deny. In 2018, when Apple introduced ECG on their watch, I thought it was going to be the death of my company. And my chairman, Vinod Khosla, very savvy billionaire venture capital, said, best thing ever happened to you. The world's biggest company at the time just validated that people should be monitoring themselves. And he was right. Our business has accelerated after that. So, sometimes you need to understand that a little competition or even a big competitor could be a really good thing.
Competition's great. I think it brings more visibility to the need for ECG as well as AliveCor. Now to a lighthearted, something much lighter than what we're speaking about. You are known to anyone who knows you for your ties. I shouldn't say your bow ties. How many ties do you own at this point?
Over 100 bow ties. And that's a story in and of itself, Joseph, because I'm 5'5", so I'm short. And I'm the tallest person. My parents were both, my mom was 4'11", my dad was 5'3", so we have a short family. When I was examining patients in medical school, we had to wear coats and ties. We had white coats and ties. Inevitably, while I'm listening to their heart, my tie would flop on them. Well, what we know now is, by the way, that's a bad way to transmit germs, picking up from the patient thing. And so this was a problem because I was so short, I would bend over on the patient. My tie would flop over, and I was complaining. And the guy said, well, you could use a bow tie. Well, you can wear a bow tie here. I had one bow tie. I'd never worn it. I'd gotten it for my high school graduation. So I hadn't worn it in 5 years or something. And no, 7 years. So I went and got it. I had no idea how to tie it. But I had a friend of mine from high school who worked in a men's store. And he said, Dave, can you tie your shoes? I said, what kind of damn question is that? He said, take a shoe, put it up away from you, reach around and tie it. I said, okay, yeah, I can do that. He said, that's how you tie a bow tie. Imagine you're tying your shoe from behind the shoe, from the heel side of the shoe. And I struggled, but got it done. And I've never looked back. And so I began collecting them. And today, I don't usually buy bow ties. I usually, because they're very few, but there are lots of long ties. I buy long ties and I have them made into bow ties. So I have a lot of absolutely unique bow ties. EKG bow ties. I have like 5 EKG bow ties that don't exist anywhere else in the world. Medical bow ties. I got a venture capital bow tie. So I've got bow ties that are, and that's kind of become my nom de plume. People they say I don't recognize you without your bow tie on. So thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing. I mean, that is a great story. And when we had a discussion before this interview, and you are the face of AliveCor, and I said this before, I think you should make your way into the commercials because you are relatable. I love the story, and I think you do have a great commercial at the moment with what's running. But I think the face of AliveCor should make a presence.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to break anybody's television. So I leave that to the people who are, and that's the other thing about No I and Team. We have a tremendous team from our CEO, our management team, to marketing, sales, HR, engineering. We've got a team, and I'm very proud that we've built such a good team. So that we have people who really understand consumer advertising and selling, who understand what it takes to go into a CVS, into a pharmacy and sell, who understand what it's like to go into a hospital and sell, and in an area I'm much more comfortable with than I am consumer advertising. So we have a team, and I'll leave it to them to decide if they want me to break a television or not.
Dr. David Albert, thank you for your time on Rounds, and I hope some innovators are going to enjoy this discussion and hopefully get some insight from you.
Thank you very much, Joseph.